Imagine this. It's a warm summer night in 1969 Los Angeles. A young, beautiful actress, 8 months pregnant, is at home with her friends. Suddenly, strangers break into her mansion. Within hours, she and 4 others are brutally murdered. The world wakes up the next morning in shock. This wasn't just a random crime. It was the work of Charles Manson and his so-called family, a cult-like group that believed they were starting an apocalyptic race war. In today's video, we're diving deep into one of the most disturbing murder sprees in American history, the Manson family murders. Before we get started, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe for more true crime stories, and let me know your thoughts down below. Trust me, you're going to want to talk about this one. Part 1. Who was Charles Manson? Charles Manson wasn't just any criminal. He was a failed musician, a drifter, and most importantly, a manipulator. Born in 1934, Manson grew up in poverty and spent much of his youth in reform schools and prison. By the mid-1960s, he had moved to California, where he gathered a group of mostly young, vulnerable followers, many of them women, who believed he was some kind of prophet. He preached about love, peace, and the coming apocalypse, but behind all of that was a dark obsession. Manson believed a race war was inevitable, something he called helter-skelter, a term he stole from the Beatles. His family wasn't just a group of hippies living on a ranch. They were a cult, and Manson had absolute control over them. Part 2. The night of August 8, 1969, the Tate murders. On the night of August 8, 1969, Manson sent 4 of his followers, Tex Watson, Susan Atkins, Patricia Krenwinkel, and Linda Kasabian, to a house on Cielo Drive in Los Angeles. That house belonged to actress Sharon Tate, who was married to director Roman Polanski. Tate was 8 months pregnant at the time. When the Manson family members broke in, chaos followed. Sharon Tate, Jay Sebring, Abigail Folger, Wojciech Frykowski, and Stephen Parent were all murdered in cold blood. The attackers used knives, guns, and sheer brutality. The crime scene was horrifying. Blood was smeared across the walls, with the word pig written in Tate's blood. The murders sent shockwaves across the world. Hollywood's elite and everyday Americans alike were terrified. Part 3. The next night, the LaBianca murders. But it didn't stop there. The very next night, August 9, 1969, Manson himself joined the mission. He led a group of family members to the home of Lino and Rosemary LaBianca, a wealthy couple in Los Angeles. Manson tied them up, then left his followers to finish the job. Lino and Rosemary were brutally stabbed to death. On the walls, the words "Death to Pigs" and "Helter-Skelter" were written in blood. At this point, the murders weren't just crimes. They were messages, Manson's way of igniting fear and trying to spark the race war he had predicted. Part 4. The arrest and trial. It didn't take long for police to start connecting the dots. By the end of 1969, Charles Manson and several of his followers were arrested. The trial that followed in 1970 was unlike anything the world had ever seen. Manson carved an X into his forehead, later turning it into a swastika. His followers sat in court, often laughing or singing. The details that came out during the trial were chilling. Susan Atkins even bragged about killing Sharon Tate, showing no remorse. In 1971, Charles Manson and several of his followers were convicted of murder and sentenced to death. Their sentences were later commuted to life in prison when California abolished the death penalty. Part 5. The Cult Psychology. What made young men and women follow Charles Manson so blindly? Psychologists argue that Manson exploited vulnerable people, offering them love, drugs, and a sense of belonging. He twisted their minds, convincing them to commit horrific acts in the name of his so-called prophecy. The Manson family wasn't just a group of killers, it was a cautionary tale of how manipulation and charisma can turn ordinary people into murderers. Part 6. The Legacy of Fear. More than 50 years later, the Manson family murders are still infamous. Movies, documentaries, and books continue to revisit that summer of 1969. For many, it marked the end of the peace and love era of the 1960s. The murders shattered the illusion of safety in Hollywood and changed America's cultural landscape forever. Charles Manson remained behind bars until his death in 2017, but his name still echoes as one of the darkest symbols of evil in modern history. And that, my friends, is the story of Charles Manson and the Manson family murders. It's a chilling reminder of how one man's twisted beliefs and charisma led to some of the most shocking crimes of the 20th century. What do you think? Do you believe the Manson family followed him out of pure fear, or were they fully convinced by his vision of helter-skelter? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'll be reading every single one. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more true crime stories, and share this with someone who loves learning about history's darkest secrets.